In 55 BC, Julius Caesar, the ambitious Roman general and statesman, embarked on a monumental campaign to invade Britain. His decision to cross the waters of the English Channel was not merely driven by a lust for conquest, but by a complex web of political and strategic motivations. This first-hand account of the historical event comes from Julius Caesar himself, written in the Gallic Wars, Caesar's handwritten account of his war with the Gauls. Caesar's interest in Britain stemmed partly from reports of the island's wealth and resources, but it was also fueled by the intricate alliances and conflicts among the Celtic tribes inhabiting the region. He learned that some of these tribes were providing support to their kinsmen who had been previously subdued by Roman forces on the mainland. This solidarity across the Channel posed a threat to Roman authority and stability in Gaul. With a keen understanding of the interconnectedness of power dynamics, Caesar recognized that by subduing Britain, he could sever this crucial support network, thus consolidating Roman control over Gaul and weakening potential threats to Roman dominion. Moreover, a successful invasion would enhance Caesar's prestige and political standing back in Rome, bolstering his aspirations for ultimate power within the Roman Republic. Thus, Caesar's decision to attack Britain was not merely a military endeavor, but a calculated move in a larger geopolitical chess game. The build of the warships apparently sprang a surprise on the natives, and, as their greater maneuverability was obvious, Caesar ordered them to draw away from the transports. He had them rowed up to a station on the enemy's exposed flank, from which our barrage of slings, artillery and arrows might force their withdrawal. Our men reaped considerable benefit from these tactics. The build of the ships, the dash of the oars and the novel type of barrage demoralized the natives. They halted and actually beat a slight retreat. Our men had come to a standstill, mainly because of the depth of water. But the standard-bearer of the 10th Legion prayed to the gods for a blessing on the legion. "You must jump for it, fellows," he shouted, "unless you mean to let them get the eagle. I, for one, shall do my duty to my country and my captain." He roared this out and plunged overboard to carry his eagle towards the other side. At this, our men encouraged one another not to let a thing like that happen and leapt overboard every man. Those on the ships within sight followed suit in a general advance. Fighting was tough on both sides. My men could not keep in line, get a firm foothold, or keep to their own standards. Each man joined the nearest unit irrespective of his ship, and chaos reigned. The enemy knew the lie of the shoals, and when they saw from the beach isolated groups disembarking, they made a mounted charge and attacked them in their difficulties. These they outnumbered and surrounded, while their companions raked the main party with an enfilade. Caesar assessed the situation and had both the boats of the warships and the sloops packed with soldiers to help wherever he saw need. Our men reached the land and were there reinforced by all those behind. Then came the assault which routed the enemy, but we could not follow up satisfactorily as the cavalry had failed to hold its course and make the island. The enemy lost the day. As soon as they could stop bolting, they sent a peace delegation to Caesar. Commius, the Atrebatian, came along with it. It was he whom Caesar had sent to Britain to bring that general's instructions, but they had seized him as soon as he stepped ashore and clapped him in irons. The outcome of our victory was his release. In suing for peace, they attributed this outrage to the lower classes and asked him to let it pass as an act of their folly. Caesar protested at their unprovoked aggression after they had taken it upon themselves to send a delegation over to the continent to make peace with him. Yet he forgave their folly and demanded hostages. Some they delivered on the spot, but promised to send for the others from upcountry in a few days. Meanwhile, they demobilized the tribesmen, and the chiefs came in from all quarters to surrender themselves and their countries to Caesar. Thus, peace was made within 4 days of the landing in Britain. The 17 ships with the cavalry left the upper harbour with a gentle breeze. They were nearing Britain and had been sighted from the camp when a squall got up. It was impossible to keep on course, and some were swept back to their starting point, while others scudded westwards to the lower part of the island and were in jeopardy. These anchored, but began shipping water and had to make for the continent through the stormy night. Now it was a full moon, and we did not realize that this generally means high tides there. So the tide began to swamp the invasion craft, which Caesar had beached, while the storm battered the transports in the roads, and there was nothing we could do about it. There were many wrecks, and the other ships were put out of commission by the loss of cables, anchors, and such. Inevitably, the army was affected, for no other vessels were available for their withdrawal. There was no tackle for refitting, and there was no commissariat for the winter, as it was assumed they would winter in Gaul. The British princes had met to fulfill Caesar's demands, but they saw how the land lay and held a congress. They knew the Romans were without cavalry, ships, or food, and as the camp was small, they supposed that the expedition was insignificant, for Caesar had brought over the combat troops without the supply train. Their best plan seemed revolt, a denial of food to us, and a prolongation of the campaign into the winter. If our army should be beaten and return no more, they believed that no one would ever again come to Britain with hostile intent. Their new plot was to filter out of the camp and to begin an unobtrusive mobilization. Caesar did not yet know their intentions, but the naval disaster and the failure of hostages to arrive led him to anticipate the sequel, and he began to prepare for the worst. He had daily requisitions of corn brought in from the farms, took the timber and brass of the worst wrecks to refit the other ships, and ordered essential replacements from the continent. 12 ships were lost, but the supreme efforts of the soldiers thus made the others able to serve. Meanwhile, the 7th Legion was out on a routine foraging mission without any thought of action, as there were still people on the farms and traffic in and out of the camp. Suddenly, the guards at the gate reported to Caesar an exceptional quantity of dust where the legion had gone. Caesar rightly sensed a new native stratagem. He told the 2 duty cohorts to follow him and the other 2 to relieve them, and the rest to arms and follow at once. After a short march, he saw his troops pressed by the enemy almost to the breaking point, with the legion undeployed and subject to crossfire. For the corn had been reaped in every district except one, and the enemy had guessed they would go there and had prepared an ambush by night in the woods. Our men were scattered, busy reaping with arms piled, when the attack began. They killed some, put the others into confusion, and surrounded them with both cavalry and chariots. A chariot fight is like this. First, they scour the field shooting, and this often breaks the line just with the fear of the horses and the din of wheels. When they have infiltrated among the cavalry units, they jump down and fight as infantry. Meanwhile, the drivers withdraw a bit to wait where they can quickly escape to base, if compelled by weight of numbers. Thus, they show the dash of cavalry and the steadiness of infantry in action. Daily drill teaches them the habit of checking their steeds, even in full career down a steep slope, of lightning turns, and of running along the pole, standing on the yoke, and getting back quickly into the chariot. Caesar brought help in the nick of time to our men, for they were dismayed by such novel tactics.